These 5 letters have ruined the future of millions of students. Children are supposed to find out what they're truly passionate about, what they want to do in life, and what's the goal they're going to work for the rest of their life. Instead, the education system is developing an obsession with grades, the ability to regurgitate information, and the realization that achievement is more important than understanding. And what's the result? You lose half of your life learning subjects you will never use. And when you're supposed to finish college, you graduate with an empty head. You didn't learn how to live your life, how to be happy, you didn't learn how to earn money correctly, how to think critically, how to build healthy relationships, or even, how to be a human. Every student follows the same general schedule. You learn information in class, you go home and do problems on the concepts learned, then you take a test on the concept with a grade between 0 and 100%. If you memorize, you will succeed. If you don't, you will fail. Theoretically, this makes sense. But practically, it doesn't. Here's what happens. If you get a good grade, you're smart. If you don't, you're stupid. You feel like you're inferior to others. Maybe you should accept your stupidity. Maybe you should just give up. Education is not for me. You may say, I should drop out. I can't be a doctor. I can't change the world. I'm not talented. Just look at my grades. Or maybe, I should put an end to my life. No, you shouldn't. The goal of education should be to build a healthy person. And by healthy I mean physically and mentally. But what you see in all education systems in the world is completely the opposite. You see a depressed student who's ruining his health just for one goal. To get that degree. Even if you're wasting your life studying materials you will never need in your life, it doesn't matter as long as you get that paper at the end. That's not how things should work. Because a degree is like a passport that opens up opportunities. It's not a ticket to success. Many students get the wrong idea thinking that getting a degree is the final goal. It's just the beginning. Education must teach you how to live your life, how to talk to people, and how to build healthy relationships. Education should teach you ethics and how to be a good person. Education should teach you how to invest money and how to succeed in life. Mathematics and physics are important, but they're not for everyone. You can't judge a fish that she's stupid because she can't climb a tree. But you're judging students the same way by obliging them to study irrelevant subjects to their needs and goals. The education system is teaching students how to be an employee, not how to be a human. The education system was made for the past, not for the future. Schools train children to work in factories. Schools educate all the children the same, they don't focus on individuals, they give the same education to all the children, even when they know each child has a different mindset. Imagine if a doctor gave all of its patients the same medicine, the results will be catastrophic. Yet this is happening all over the world. And as a result, the education system has gone downhill because we've given up on knowledge. This is the untold truth about education. Let's get started. It's no surprise to anyone that the current education system is shaping students to be the same copy of everyone else. In short, education kills creativity. It doesn't allow students to be different and think outside the box, or in other words, outside the system. And because schools only teach and assess the ability to memorize, students have no opportunity to exercise their intelligence outside of this. According to schools, the only way a student can be smart is if they can memorize well. Because this is how schools judge students, students learn to judge each other on this as well. They begin ranking their intelligence, and even their worth, by their ability to memorize. Again, to verify, ask your nearest high schooler who their smartest classmates are. They will tell you the names of students who can regurgitate the most facts, and therefore get the highest grades, not the names of students who build robots in their spare time. By this metric, anyone who has below average attentional control or semantic memory has less to offer. But that group includes not only the learning disabled and the mentally ill, but many average performers and many geniuses. The ability to memorize strings of information is only one of many predictors of IQ. All of this means that using the ability to memorize as a measure of intelligence is worthless. This results in many intelligent children grow up thinking they're dumb because they are not talented at memorization. They are punished by the school with worse grades and are labeled by the school as having less to offer. But schools do not celebrate these differences or encourage students to cultivate their gifts. Schools pressure these gifted students into ignoring their gifts and instead waste these students' potential, making them maintain a well-balanced GPA. And unfortunately, parents are only making things worse. When a child gives up caring at school and starts getting bad marks, most parents tend to react by becoming stricter. They think discipline is the answer. Unfortunately, that's precisely the wrong thing to do. Meddling in other people's lives gets you nowhere. That's because each and every one of us has to learn to take responsibility for our own actions in life. So if a parent starts pushing a child to work harder in school, the child's not going to learn to love studying. He's just going to feel obliged to follow a routine. There's little difference between this sort of interference and outright control. It doesn't show concern, just that someone is trying to push an agenda promoting his own interests. So in this example, the parents of the pupil may actually want their child to get good results as an indication of their successful parenting for themselves and for the wider community. What parents should actually do is allow children their freedom, but also demonstrate that they are always there to lend support. This sort of parenting will result in children who are more independent and mature, but who will come to love learning. With all that said, it can be hard to recognize that you're interfering in other people's lives and that you need to change how you interact with others. After all, we're so used to considering people who are close to us, whether that's children or partners, as little more than appendages to ourselves. That means that what we think of as support often ends up being self-interested manhandling. Instead of punishing your children, the best thing you can do as a parent is to talk with your child. Ask him about his goals and where he sees himself after 5 to 10 years. Then make a plan with him. If his goal requires a college degree, then motivate him to study and make an effort. If it doesn't, look for an alternative. Do not be an obstacle in front of your son. Instead, be a support to him. Many people complain about how schools don't teach critical thinking skills and that they don't prepare students for the real world. These complaints are often accompanied by a suggestion to add a class that covers the missing skills. But this is not enough. It is not that schools need their classwork updated for the 21st century. Schools do not achieve even their most basic goals. Here are some examples. Children love to explore. Anyone who has had a young child knows this. Children are constantly rummaging around, opening up containers and dumping out what's inside, smearing things all over walls, floors and themselves, and making a mess in their effort to explore the world. This exploration is how children learn, and they are thrilled to do it. Simply put, children love learning. But the manner in which schools teach children via forced lecture ruins learning for kids. These lectures are devoid of stimulation and interactivity. Students are stuck in their seats and bored to tears. Anyone who has been through the public school system remembers how the dreadfully long class feels. Students often look up at the clock, dismayed to find the end of the class still hours away. After 10+ years of these lectures, students grow up into graduates who avoid learning unless circumstances dictate they must. Nearly a quarter of Americans did not read a single book in 2014. Ask any recent graduate and they'll tell you they're beyond thankful that they're done having to learn things. In addition to exploring, children love to play. Imaginative play is how children integrate what they've learned. Playing is how children use what they know to create something new. They use their creativity and knowledge to make something more. But in the school's unstimulating mandatory lectures, a child's natural desire to create is crushed. In lectures, there is no opportunity for creativity or play. Students must sit and memorize fact after fact so that they can later regurgitate these facts on a multiple-choice exam. Even dynamic assessments, like essays and presentations, are graded with strict rubrics which primarily measure fact repetition and consider original conclusions an afterthought. After 10 years of having their creative thinking ability suppressed, students become graduates who are not able to think creatively. Students today do poorly on simple logical reasoning tests, and only a fraction of graduating high school seniors can make informed critical judgments about written text. Not only is creative learning discouraged, learning itself is discouraged at least, any learning which does not come from pre-approved school sources. Schools enforce this by teaching students a rigorous fear of plagiarism for their students. Schools only allow students to cite from a narrow band of pre-approved sources. Ostensibly, this is meant to teach students how to identify an authoritative source, but instead of teaching students how to do this, schools use website blockers to do it for them. As a result, students are even less equipped to identify appropriate sources than they would be if they received no instruction at all. On top of that, school citations require many pages of formalities, sometimes even more than is standard for university research. This discourages students from using many references to make new and unique points, due to both the difficulty of finding approved sources and the sheer number of citations students would need. These students become graduates who are incapable of evaluating anything they've read. One study found that many students graduated without knowing how to sift fact from opinion, make a clear written argument, or objectively review conflicting reports of a situation or event. Instead of assessing validity via reasoning ability, they judged based on other factors. The students, for example, couldn't determine the cause of an increase in neighborhood crime or how best to respond without being swayed by emotional testimony and political spin. These students also become graduates who are not able to do research. A report released by Project Information Literacy showed that students lack research skills in a variety of ways. They use research styles that prioritize passing grades over exploratory learning, they do not use the internet to research, and when stuck, they turn to faculty for advice, not research librarians. This report demonstrates that not only can students not research, but that when they are stuck, they turn to an authority to tell them what to do instead of seeking out the answer for themselves. Independent learning is further discouraged by the idea of required classes and prerequisites. In the real world, you are free to start learning whatever you'd like to learn, whenever you like to learn it. You are able to start at your own level and advance at your own pace. This is the great innovation of the internet. It makes learning available to anyone, at any level. But in school, all students must go through the same pre-selected course load. This course load is selected by the State Department officials or local school administrators. In either case, students, teachers, and parents have almost no input. This course load has little to no customization for each student's needs. Artificially restricted course options tell students that they can only learn what others have told them they can learn, discouraging them from teaching themselves things on their own. Because students have no ability to choose subjects for themselves in school, they graduate unable to do so when it matters. Less than half of high school graduates feel prepared to choose college or a career for themselves. This is especially alarming since the labor market is moving towards skill stacks and frequent career changes. In short, the more intelligent, curious, independent, and creative a student is, the more they struggle in the school environment. The more they struggle, the more they will act out. This is why most high-potential students often have the most trouble. It is a symptom of a broken system. These high-potential children are either seen as being troublemakers or mentally ill, and sometimes both. Teachers are good people who want students to learn. But by its very nature, the job duties of a teacher incentivizes passing a student over teaching a student. The more students don't pass, the more problems a school has. The school wants funding, and higher teacher salaries, and bigger sports teams' budgets. Most of all, the school does not want problems. This creates a dangerous conflict of interest. A student who is learning critical thinking skills is less likely to pass than a student who is not. A student learning to think critically asks many questions in class. They invite debate. They get into arguments about whether the right answer is really the right answer. All of this makes this student less likely to select the right answer on the multiple choice exam. This takes place in a classroom of 20 to 30 other students, all of whom are becoming distracted by the critical thinker, decreasing their chances of picking the right answer as well. After all this, I'm comfortable saying that the education system is failing and really needs improvement. Alright guys, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and click the like button. Also let me know in the comments below what you learned from this video, or if you have a suggestion for a future video. Thank you for watching and see you next time.